Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've been sitting here listening to the debate, I'm often conflicted with the inconsistencies that seem to be coming forth. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to highlight one in particular one, and that is this. The attempts to modernize this system, which obviously the House did not adopt yesterday, were being praised. We could have direct shipment of wine, increased Sunday sales, and other modernization efforts to increase the sales. And Mr. Speaker, I was left with one question, and it is this. Why is increased consumption via state stores okay, but increased consumption through private vendors somehow more evil? Mr. Speaker, I actually think rather than the debate between maintain the current system or modernize the current system and increase access to sales, there's an even more fundamental question that we should be asking. And for me, it's this. Should the state even be in the business of alcohol sales to begin with? Mr. Speaker, let's think about the current system. With one side of government, we have an entire set of individuals who are encouraging the sale of alcohol. I've heard advertisements on television, I've heard advertisements on radio. Mr. Speaker, and then we have an entire group of law enforcement officials who are attempting to enforce the laws that we currently have. I commend them for that effort, but I have to think that it's frustrating to think that our two arms of government are in direct conflict with one another. My opinion is that government should focus on essential services, roads, bridges, education, not encouraging the sales of liquor. I think that's best left to the private sector. Mr. Speaker, earlier the gentleman from Center County asked, what about the social conservatives? What about the Christian movement, I believe was the term that he had used. Mr. Speaker, obviously I'm from Lancaster County. We're known for the strong social values. I'm proud to call myself a social conservative. Mr. Speaker, but I have to tell you this. When I had a breakfast last year for my local pastors, this subject came up and I spoke my mind. I asked the very same question that I posed to the floor today, and that is this. Why is the state even in the business of selling alcohol? And somewhat to my surprise, 2/3 of the pastors that were in the room agreed. It was a broad cross-section, Protestant, Catholic, multiple denominations. It wasn't that they were promoting increased access to alcohol. No, quite to the contrary, Mr. Speaker. They viewed the business as being immoral, and they did not believe that the state should be in it at all. Mr. Speaker, questions have been raised about control. Let's take a look at what controls will change. All the current controls will still be in place. It will still be illegal to sell to minors. It will still be illegal to drive while intoxicated. Not only that, but there are provisions in the bill, Mr. Speaker, that require carding for anyone under the age of 35, increased classes and training for the state police. I would offer this, that by focusing solely on enforcement, the government can stop dividing their efforts. We're working against ourselves right now. One arm encouraging sales and consumption, another group trying to enforce the laws to prevent that same consumption. Mr. Speaker, I think when the government focuses on enforcement, we'll all win and our communities will be much safer. Questions have been raised about the revenue. What will happen? I believe the Republican Appropriations Chairman very eloquently pointed out, yes, there'll be a one-time infusion of cash, money that comes into the state so that we can debate. I believe it's the purview of the legislature to debate how and where that money is spent. Mr. Speaker, but something that seems to continually be overlooked is this. 6% sales tax, we'll continue to collect it. 18% Johnstown flood tax, we'll continue to collect it. Mr. Speaker, it is not as if this stream of revenue dries up eternally. It is still there. It will be there as long as we sell alcohol in the state, regardless of who sells it. Mr. Speaker, I opened with the question of should we even be in the business in the first place? The counter argument is, could the Liquor Control Board modernize? Mr. Speaker, I come back to the original question, and it is this. Perhaps they could modernize, but I don't believe that they should have ever been in the business in the first place. That's why I encourage my colleagues to support House Bill 790, Cast an affirmative vote and get us out of the liquor business. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.